Hello and welcome to Camp, the Catholic Audiobook in a Month podcast. My name is William Wilson, and today is day 4 of The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. I will be reading Spiritual Maxims 5 and 6. You will hear the conclusion of the cliffhanger from last episode, the means for attaining the presence of God. This outlines our role in this. First of all, we have great purity of life. Second of all, we keep our soul's gaze fixed on faith. A quick side note on that, you might want to check out our podcast on the abandonment to the divine will. That's available at camp.fm/abandonment, and specifically days 10 through 12, which talk about faith. Going on, our third means would be to look to God before every task. And then he kind of adds, and during and after. And the basic idea here is to create a habit of looking to God. Fourth would be spontaneous, or classically called ejaculatory prayers. Fifth would be don't get discouraged. That's a good one. And sixth, mortifying the senses. The second maxim revolves around the benefits of the presence of God. And he points out a number of those. First of all, faith grows more active in all events of life. Second, he strengthens our hope. Third, we get a distrust in the created world. And fourth, we see God clearly. And finally, after that, he warns us that not very many reach this state. So that's the reading for today. Let's get started. Of means for attaining unto the presence of God. 1. The first is a great purity of life, in guarding ourselves with care, lest we should do or say or think on anything which might be displeasing to God, and when any such thing happens, in taking heed to repent thereof, humbly begging his forgiveness. 2. The second is a great faithfulness in the practice of his presence, and in keeping the soul's gaze fixed on God in faith, calmly, humbly, lovingly, without allowing an entrance to anxious cares and disquietude. 3. Make it your study before taking up any task to look to God, be it only for a moment, as also when you are engaged thereon, and lastly, when you have performed the same. And forasmuch as without time and great patience this practice cannot be attained, be not disheartened at your many falls. Truly this habit can only be formed with difficulty, yet when it is formed, how great will your joy therein! Is it not right that the heart, which is the first thing in us to have life, and which has dominion over all the body, should be the first and last to love and worship God, both when we begin and end our actions, be they spiritual or bodily, and generally in all the affairs of life? It is here, therefore, in the heart, that we ought to strive to make a habit of this gaze on God. But that which is needful to bring the heart to this obedience we must do, as I've already said, quite simply without strain or study. 4. Those who set out upon this practice, let me counsel to offer up in secret a few words, such as, My God, I am wholly thine. O God of love, I love thee with all my heart. Lord, make my heart even as thine. Or such other words as love prompts on the instant. But take heed that your mind wanders not back to the world again. Keep it fixed on God alone, so that, thus subdued by the will, it may be constrained to abide with God. 5. This practice of the presence of God is somewhat hard at the outset. Yet, pursued faithfully, it works imperceptibly within the soul most marvelous effects. It draws down God's grace abundantly, and leads the soul insensibly to the ever-present vision of God, loving and beloved, which is the most spiritual and most real, the most free and the most life-giving manner of prayer. Remember that to attain this state we must mortify the senses, inasmuch as no soul which takes delight in earthly things can find full joy in the presence of God. To be with Him, we must leave behind the creature. Of the benefits of the presence of God. 1. The first benefit which the soul receives from the presence of God is that faith grows more alive and active in all the events of life, particularly when we feel our need, since it obtains for us the succor of His grace when we are tempted, and in every time of trial. Accustomed by this practice to take faith as guide, the soul, by a simple remembrance, sees and feels God present and calls upon Him freely and with assurance of response, receiving the supply of all its needs. By faith, it would seem, the soul draws very near to the state of the blessed. The higher it advances, the more living does faith grow, until at last, so piercing does the eye of faith become, that the soul can almost say, faith is swallowed up in sight. I see and experience. 2. The practice of the presence of God strengthens us in hope. Our hope grows in proportion as our knowledge, and in measure as our faith by this holy practice penetrates into the hidden mysteries of God. In like measure, it finds in Him a beauty beyond compare, surpassing infinitely that of earth, as also that of the most holy souls and angels. Our hope grows and waxes ever stronger, sustained and enheartened by the fullness of the bliss which it aspires to and even already tastes in part. 3. Hope breathes into the will a distrust of things seen, and sets it aflame with the consuming fire of divine love. For God's love is in very truth a consuming fire, burning to ashes all that is contrary to His will. The soul thus kindled cannot live save in the presence of God, and the presence works within the heart a consecrated zeal, a holy ardor, a violent passion to see this God known and loved, and served and worshipped by all His creatures. 4. By the practice of the presence of God, by steadfast gaze on Him, the soul comes to a knowledge of God full and deep, to an unclouded vision. All its life is passed in unceasing acts of love and worship, of contrition and of simple trust, of praise and prayer and service. At times, indeed, life seems to be but one long, unbroken practice of His divine presence. I know that they are not many who reach this state. It is a grace which God bestows only on very few chosen souls. For this unclouded vision is a gift from His all-bounteous hand. Yet, for the consolation of such as would fain embrace this holy practice, let me say that God seldom denies this gift to those who earnestly desire it. And if He do withhold this crowning mercy, be well assured that, by the practice of the presence of God, with the aid of His all-sufficient grace, the soul can attain to a state which approaches very nearly the unclouded vision. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Tomorrow I will read the first part of The Ways of Brother Lawrence, which talks of his life and spirituality. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, rate, share, and help us grow. Also, please check out oratebooks.com, now featuring The Ways of Mental Prayer by Vital Leode. Praised by Pope St. Pius X and spiritual leaders across generations, this masterwork guides readers through the transformative journey of prayer, from its foundational practices to its most profound mystical heights. That's ORATE books.com. If you'd like to learn more about us, please visit camp.fm. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.